joining RPI Consultants Summer Webinar Series. We're going to be discussing Yoga SMS, document approvals for your mobile device. I'm John Marney, and this is Alex Lindsay, who will be helping me present today. So first, a little bit about RPI. Many of you may know this already, but for those of you who don't, we have been working with the Perceptive products for around 16 years now. We've also been working with Kofax products for a long time, and in the last year, we've really gotten ourselves familiar with the Highland products as well. So for this organization, very familiar with the full suite of products. We have around 20 team members and growing on the Perceptive practice. We're based here in Kansas City. The remainder of our company, around 70 consultants, focuses on the Infor Lawson products. Our headquarters are in Baltimore. We also have an office out of Tampa.
And a lot of the work that we do, again, like John said, is around the Perceptive products, but we do this for the Kofax as well as for the Highland pieces as well. So eForm development, iScript development. No matter how big or small, we've pretty much tackled everything at this point. Workflow designs and redesigns, which I personally like to do quite a bit. So if you have a solution that you implemented, let's say in 2008, for instance, and you want to re-examine that, we can do that. Upgrades, health checks, if you want to take a look under the hood, just get some outside perspective of how your solution's working. Security audits, migrations, and we also have expertise within clinical and HL7.
Fantastic. So first, Alex, what is yoga?
That's a great question, John. So yoga is an HTML5 front end built by RPI. So we've actually built this ourselves. It's primarily for use within Perceptive Content. So it basically sits on top of Perceptive Content. Allows you to do a lot of different things with your existing solution, but through an HTML5 browser. So this means your tablets, your smartphones, things like that. Some of the benefits, there's no Java. So everyone that loves web now, sorry, there's no Silverlight, just a modern browser. Yoga Studio is also a Node.js application server.
Right, that's the back end for the yoga front end.
And it also connects to Perceptive via integration server calls.
Right. And so what is Yoga SMS? Well, it is not yoga. They are separate products. Yoga SMS is a web service for mobile document processing. What that means is this is something that will integrate directly into your workflow to send a text message and a document image to a verified phone number so that you can get your document images and approvals is really what we're talking about out to users away from a computer. This easily integrates with your existing workflow. So this is really a layer that sits on top of what you have right now. And really, in our design considerations, this is perfect for invoices and accounts payable. That's what we're going to be demonstrating today. And that was really the main driver behind why we built this. So reasons to use Yoga SMS. Well, number one, if you have workers in the field who need access to documents quickly. We've worked with a client recently who had a lot of field locations, and they had workers out visiting their customer sites. If we needed to reach them to get them to review documents or approve them, this is perfect for that application. Additionally, executive approvers who are always on the go. If your CEO or CFO is always clamoring for really streamlined mobile approvals, which we hear a lot, this is perfect for them as well. Additionally, this allows for maximum device flexibility. And what I mean by that is, you never know how a certain piece of software is going to run on any given computer or tablet or phone. For this, if the device can receive an MMS and an SMS, then it'll work. And any cell phone that can, any smartphone, if you're using a flip phone, you're out of luck. That can view those images, can do this, and it will work the same way for everyone. Additionally, this will allow for improved workflow turn time. It's a lot easier for people to ignore email and their ImageNow workflow than it is to ignore that little notification icon on your iPhone. So I think this can drive more productivity among your users.
So what are some of the requirements around using Yoga SMS? So primarily we developed this around Perceptive Content 7.1.5. That was the go-ahead version. It may work in older versions, and it probably work in 7.2 as well. Again, just testing it out.
Yeah, it'll definitely work in 7.2, and it more than likely will work in anything over 7.0. That's just not what we developed it on. The main driver there is it uses certain integration server calls, which may not be supported in older versions. But again, we can definitely, and we can even make it not not use integration server at all if need be.
Yeah. It's also platform agnostic, so you could technically put this on top of, you know, a Kofax workflow or a Highland, something like that, to basically work into your solution. So it's not just for this. It's flexible enough to do quite a few other things.
That's right. It requires an integration server license with Transaction Pack. Most anybody will have that who has installed Perceptive Content in the last 5 years. If you're not sure, you know, we can always hop into a call with you to quickly find out. And all that it takes to deploy this is one small executable that we developed to facilitate that web service call, and a few minor changes to your existing workflow scripts. And of course, if you don't have an approvals workflow and you'd like to start one, you know, we can help you with that too. Okay, a few features. This product, Yoga SMS, can be used with all types of approvals. So many of you will have one of these, probably not multiple, but the three main types are workflow, where documents are routed from sub-queue to sub-queue or from work queue to work queue, and users will route their approval or their rejection. The second and probably the most common is stamp-based approvals, where users are required to affix an approved or rejected, or maybe, you know, other types of annotations to the document and route it forward. And that's what we're going to be showing today. And finally, of course, tasks. Tasks that are applied to the document requesting user or multiple users' approvals are supported as well. Again, this is a layer that sits on top of what you have. So this leverages your existing approval scripts and your existing approval matrix. The one caveat to that is we would need to modify your approval matrix to include a phone number so that we can actually send the text message. Of course, we're very concerned about security. On a first approval for any given phone number, it will ask for email verification. That email address should already exist in your approval matrix, so we can just leverage that. And of course, this is our product, so this is basically infinitely customizable. Any language or modifications to the images that would make sense for your environment, we can make. So now we're going to walk through a quick example process for how Yoga SMS would be used, and then we're going to actually show a demonstration video.
Basically, an AP clerk will key in their invoice. Maybe you have some OCR technology on the front end, like KTM or Intelligent Capture, that's basically pulling some metadata. Maybe you're just using the document without any form, or if you have any form, basically this AP clerk is filling in the data to basically prep the document for approvals. They will then route the document forward. So again, like John mentioned earlier, we're not trying to revamp or completely change the solution, just sitting on top. So those scripts will basically kick off, send an SMS to that first level approver, so a department manager, maybe that's all you need. They'll get the text, they'll ask them to approve or reject the invoice. They'll reply back to that same text string, you know, approve with a specific number, and you'll see that demonstrated as well.
Right. So in this scenario, maybe that invoice triggers a second level approver. In this case, that would go to the department director. They will receive the same text message and the invoice image, but it will actually display the manager's approval on there with the stamp annotation, so you'll be able to see that reflected on the document. They, of course, will also reply with their approval, and that will trigger the system to send it back to the accounts payable workflow so that they can process it for payment. So now we're going to go ahead and do a quick video demonstration. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate Yoga SMS. I am currently logged into Perceptive Content 715. That said, Yoga SMS could work with just about any platform, whether that be Lawson APIA or Highland OnBase or anything like that. I'm going to demonstrate how Yoga SMS would work with a typical invoice approval process. However, it could be used with really any sort of approval or workflow, such as human resources or higher education or any sort of workflow that requires on-the-go or mobile viewing. So I have a document waiting for me. This is an invoice document. I'll go ahead and open it up. And on the left, you'll see that this is an invoice for 10 widgets. On the right is my trusty APE form, and it's coded correctly. You know, most accounts payable approvals are driven off of the GL account and the amount, and that is the case with this as well. And set up in this environment, I have the normal stamp approvals process, which is you know, configured in many environments out there. And maybe you're using workflow where your users route it to an approved or rejected queue, or you're using tasks. We can actually integrate with any of those approval processes, and really Yoga SMS can hook right into your existing process and use your existing approval matrix without many changes at all. So one last thing to note is you'll notice that there is a confidential annotation that has been applied to this document over here on the bottom left. Important to note because you'll see that show up on the mobile device as well. So I'm going to go ahead and route this document forward to kick off approvals. Send to approvals. What that does is that sends a message out to our Yoga SMS web service with all of the information. Well, I should say it triggers the workflow scripts that would typically identify the next approver, and that will send the information to Yoga SMS with all the relevant information for phone number and email address to send a text message to that person for approval. Now I'm going to go ahead and cast my phone onto the recording here. Soon we will see a text message show up asking me to approve or reject the document. Okay, here we go. So this text message is from our Yoga SMS service. I'm going to go ahead and swipe to open. And you can see that it sent me a message saying action required on this doc with ID 0079. Reply with approve or reject, and then the number. So that is a text message, an SMS, and it actually sent as an MMS the invoice image itself. So if I open that up, you can see that this is the same invoice I had in workflow, and again, there's that confidential annotation that we had on the document. This is gray. We decided for now not to do colors because it's a little more easily readable on the mobile device. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go ahead and approve this invoice by just replying approve 0079. And it will respond with a verification message basically saying that it acknowledged it, and yes, so document 0079 routed successfully. So because that invoice was for $50,000 or greater, this is actually going to trigger a second level of approvals. My colleague Michael Madsen is going to show his phone now, and here in just a moment we will see him receive a text message as well asking for approval. Even better, what it will do is it will act just like a normal ImageNow workflow, and you will see a stamp from my user on that document indicating my approval. Again, this is triggering all the normal workflow actions on the Perceptive Content backend, and moving it around as necessary. So there's no major modifications needed to your existing approval workflow. This just hooks right in. And there it is. He's received his text message, so he's going to go ahead and open that up. And he's going to take a look at that invoice image. Again, you can see up there on the upper left that it has the stamp annotation from my user, just like you'd have in workflow. And he'll review the invoice, close the image, and then he'll reply with his approval or rejection. Again, it will respond to him, basically verifying that the document has routed successfully. And there you have it. That's a very basic but very common approval workflow that is triggered out of Perceptive Content and utilizes mobile devices. And it doesn't have to be a phone. Typically, MMS can also arrive on your tablet or other mobile device. So thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. That's pretty much it. Any questions we'll take right now. If you're interested in Yoga SMS or want more information, contact myself. My email's down here, jmarney@rpic.com, or Jeff Lilienfeld. We're more than willing to hop on a call with you. All right, any questions? No questions.
So we have a couple people asking us to contact them after the fact with some interest. But as far as questions, I think this is just so smooth.
It's so smooth.
It's
yeah.
So self-explanatory.
Other than the webinar going down in the middle. Yeah, it's really pretty straightforward product. I think we really do see a need for this out there. That's why we made it. So we're very interested in helping anybody get this implemented. I think that's it. Like I said, any questions after the fact, feel free to reach out to us.
We do.
Oh, you have one question. All right.
About what type of license is required for users?
For this product, there's no additional Perceptive Content licenses required. RPI will be licensing this product, but for Perceptive, the great thing is outside of that integration server license, which you don't even necessarily need, we could build this to work around that if need be. Then you don't need any additional user licenses for this product. You don't need any additional workflow licenses. I guess I should say you will need an iScript license, but if you don't have that, you don't have an automated approvals process anyway. So yeah, there you go. Any other questions? I think one more.
Oh, there's a question around, can you have other stamps?
Absolutely, yeah. So right now, we just have built this to accommodate. So first of all, we support any annotations on the document showing them when they're output to you. So whether it's a highlight, a check mark, etc. But as far as multiple kinds of stamps and different replies that you want to make on that document, so maybe it's not as straightforward as approve and reject. Maybe you want to have reject with reasons. We can accommodate any of that. We would just change that message that you reply with for all of those. Great question.
And then there's another question around why did the document number change? And I'm guessing that is...
Yeah, great question. So that document number that you saw in the text message was not the same as the document number inside of Workflow. Mm-hmm. What that number was the unique number that was generated by Yoga SMS for that unique approval. So the first approver was 0079, I think, because that was their approval. And if for whatever reason another user were to try to text that number with approve 0079, that user is not married to that approval in the database, so it would not work. It would just send them an error.
So essentially, it's like two different levels of security, one of which is that the text message that is returned needs to originate from that approver.
Yeah.
The system knows that is the approver, and then second, they need to know that PIN to
Correct.
just alleviate any potential chance of...
Correct, and of course, the extra layer of security there is your actual device security. So you've got your passcode or your thumbprint on the phone itself, which from a security standpoint is a whole other layer that oftentimes your own network password can't even beat. Another thing to keep in mind is that the number that request originated from is unique to every installation of Yoga SMS or implementation. So you would actually have your own phone number, and other people wouldn't know it. Great question.
Oh, here's a really good question. If it is not approved that day, can we push out another reminder, or is it reset automatically?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very great question. So the way that works is we want to leverage your existing approvals process. So right now, most approvals processes have an escalation or reminder built in. And so what we would do is leverage that existing reminder to basically resend the approval request so that they would receive a reminder, but we're not actually going to manage any sort of, we wouldn't necessarily, we don't right now, but if you wanted to, we could, but we wouldn't manage the reminder period inside of Yoga SMS. We would allow you to configure that inside your normal workflow like you have right now and leverage that.
Another question is, do we have to have Yoga to use Yoga SMS?
Absolutely not. Yoga is just an optional platform. I wanted to clarify at the beginning that there's a difference between the two. And so we actually do have a webinar on Yoga if you're interested that you should be able to find on YouTube. But yes, Yoga SMS is completely standalone from Yoga.
And I believe the one thing that does link Yoga with Yoga SMS, however, is Yoga Studio. Correct. So once you have Yoga Studio installed, which is that Node.js server that sits behind these two, you're able to very easily install Yoga or Yoga SMS.
We actually have a couple different architectures that we built Yoga SMS on, so Yoga Studio is not necessarily required. For those who want to leverage it, we can. It can help with some of the efficiency and some of the integration server calls we make, but yeah.
Yeah, and I guess one other question. We showed the concept that you can approve or reject, but the other question is, can it be moved to a research queue?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we just showed approve or reject because that's the simplest use case for this. But we can really accommodate any scenario. So it would take a little bit of customization to the service, but if you have 5 different statuses that you need to send that document to, we can accommodate that. You would just have different instructions sent to the user, and they would have different messages they would reply with. Another question that I anticipated, but we haven't heard yet, is will they be able to see the accounting information, say, out of the e-form? Right now, we haven't built that in. We wanted to make this streamlined to just get the image, look at the image, and approve. But we definitely can output, say, the GL account with the image and attach that along with it. Okay, I think that's all we had. Great questions, and thank you everyone for attending. We hope to see you at our other webinars this week, so sayonara.
Thank you.